Hi, my name is Alina. I'm 34 years old and I am nearing the end of my egg freezing process. So I just did the trigger shot last night and tomorrow they will retrieve the eggs. So I've been through the entire process already of the shots, the hormone shots, the pills, the tests, everything. And I wanted to make this video because I spent years debating whether to do this or not, truly leaning on the no more than the yes. And then when I finally decided to do it before the process started, I was really nervous and I didn't have any close friends who had done this before, so no one to really tell me what to expect. So, first, I want to talk to you about my decision to do this, and secondly, I'll tell you as much as I can about this entire process so far. So, at 31, I've always kind of known I want kids. At 31, I went to the gynecologist and I was like, I'm just worried about my fertility. I've heard after 30 it starts to decline. And he goes, you're fine. You're so young. Don't worry. 32, same thing. Don't worry. 33, no worries. You're good. Of course, they're doing tests this whole time and seeing everything that's going on. 34, he goes, this year you have to freeze your eggs. Super serious. And I was like, okay. That was a big shift in a year. So I started doing my research and also he explained a few things to me. And basically, we all kind of know or have heard that a woman's fertility really starts to drop after 35. Now, the thing that I learned is this isn't some cliff you fall off of and suddenly after 35 you're not, able to get pregnant anymore. That's not the case. It's for most women a gradual decline, right? So that's why a lot of women get pregnant naturally at 37 or maybe even 40 because it is a natural decline, right? And then other women in their early 30s may need to do IVF, and other women might struggle with fertility their whole lives, right? So the main reasons or why people freeze their eggs as well is we're born with a certain number of eggs. So that number of eggs is preset. That's called the ovarian reserve, right? And what you should kind of know is it's also the quality of your eggs. And that's what the gynecologist explained to me, that the younger eggs are a higher quality, right? And the quality also decreases over time. So that's why it's good to freeze them. Now, why 34 also is like, well, that's pretty random. Well, it is before that kind of technical science cut off. Again, different for every woman. And second, what I realized is I've been doing this process in Spain is 5 years of egg freezing are included where you don't pay an annual fee. So if you do this at 34, your eggs are there until 39, which is quite great, 39, 40. So it is kind of a nice sweet spot I found. So the reasons why I was scared to do this and didn't really know if I wanted to is I've never been on birth control, just like a couple months in high school, and I'm very pro-science. I've done all my vaccines. I take meds when I don't feel well, but I was always kind of nervous to regularly have hormones in my body. So the idea of doing this process and the hormones involved scared me. But I'm going to explain to you what is actually happening, and once the doctor explained to me what was going to happen, I was like, okay, well, actually that makes a lot of sense. And two, weight gain. I think so many women, we are fixated on our weight. Obviously, it's not a great thing. Society puts so much pressure on us. But me personally, since my late 20s, I've struggled to be the weight that I would like to be. I eat 12,000 calories a day. I do 10,000 steps a day. I work out, but I'm not the weight I want to be. So it was scary to do a process that might make me gain more weight. And of course, women who are naturally thin or have worked really, really hard to be thin, that scares them as well. Women who struggle to lose weight, scary. So all women, we, fixate on weight. Now, I've learned, I'm going to say 2 to 3 things about this. So number 1, you don't gain weight. You retain water and you bloat. And actually, when you learn the science behind it, it makes a lot of sense. So you're growing multiple eggs that will reach about 2 centimeters in size, right? So just imagine just 10 of those, 2 centimeters in size near your ovaries. Of course, you're going to be more bloated, right? Every nurse and doctor has pretty much assured me that after the procedure, the bloat goes away. Now, I'm at the end of the hormones. The bloat is not even that bad. I was nervous. The bloat is less than before my period. So really not that bad. I've been eating healthier than I normally eat. And I'm pretty sure I've been actually in other parts of my body losing weight. So it's truly not something that seems to be an issue. It seems to be more of a myth. And the last thing I'll say about it is my biggest fear was needles. I hate getting blood tests. I don't look. Needles really freak me out. And when I went, I'll tell the story maybe later, but when I went for my first hormone shot, the nurse, to give me courage, was like, you're doing this for your future children. Think of your future children. And I think we can really apply this to the weight question. Like, you're doing this to make one of your dreams come true in life, become a mom. So if you gain a little bit of weight, which doesn't even happen, but just in case, short term, that you lose within 3 months, isn't that worth the higher probability and possibility of becoming a mom in the future? I would say yes. So now that I'm at the end of this, I'm actually so excited that they're collecting my eggs. I'm so happy I did this. I feel the peace of mind people have talked about, and I'm going to share that at the end of the video. So now I'm going to tell you about the process, right? So again, one blood test they use to kind of determine your ovarian reserve is an AMH test. The Canadian government, if you're in Canada, won't cover this. And I'm pretty sure it's not covered in Spain either. A lot of fertility things for women are not covered, and they should be, but it's less than $100. So I definitely recommend getting that test done. Even if you don't know if you want to do this process, it'll give you an idea of your ovarian reserve. So I did that test back in the spring. My levels were good. And then 3 months before you start this process, you do have to do some blood tests, a pap smear. They'll do an ultrasound at the clinic, an internal ultrasound. And so I was quite sure I wanted to do it. I'm doing it in January. Honestly, great decision on my part. January, it's cold outside. You don't have a lot of plans anyways. It's the perfect month to just sit on your couch and chill and do this process, and cook a lot. I've been cooking a lot. So this whole entire process starts on day 1 of your periods. And I'm going to explain what happens in your body, which I found really fascinating. So we all know that every month you produce 1 egg, right? And 1 egg goes down to be potentially fertilized and become a baby. And if that doesn't happen, you get your period. So before that 1 egg, actually your ovaries are developing more than 1 follicle, and only 1 matures and becomes the egg that drops down. So what this process does of egg freezing, or actually the first step to IVF, is that all of the follicles that month, the hormone, it's not estrogen, it's not progesterone, it's not the hormones we know of, it's another hormone that basically triggers this process, and it's tricking your brain into developing all of the eggs that month. So anywhere between 3 to over 20 some women might make, right? So let's just say 10. So there's now 10 eggs growing, and they're growing larger than normal so that they can collect them. So they will grow up to 2 centimeters in size per egg. Wild. So that's kind of what's happening in your body. And then when, after doing the internal scans, they deem that the eggs are ready, they will trigger ovulation, and then they will collect the eggs for freezing or to continue on to become an embryo and continue the process, right? So and I just kind of want to say this now too, what's really great about this is if you freeze your eggs, then when you decide to use them, you've already done this part of IVF. And what's left is defrosting them and mixing them with the sperm, right? And the cool thing too is that if you do have a partner, but you guys know you're not ready for kids yet, but you want the option, you can freeze embryos, which I think is quite amazing as well. So let's go back to day 1 of your period. What happens? That's when everything starts. Everything is based on your cycle. So as women, we love planning. And I was like, when is my egg collection date? I need to plan, blah, blah, blah. You can't plan because it's based on your body, right? It's based on the scans. So they do know day 1 of your periods, you will start this process. So get the meds ahead of that. So day 1, I took this pill, Progevera. It is progesterone. So this makes it so that they can control ovulation, right? So it kind of controls your internal environment. I took this at 8 p.m. every night. It does make you a little drowsy and a little sleepy, so it was great for me that I took it in the evening. And then every day you are going to take a shot. For me, it was starting on my 2nd day. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I'm just sharing my personal experience. Follow all of the recommendations. that you are given. This is what I have done these last 2 weeks. So this is the syringe. This is the vial. This lasted me about 2-3 days, so you're going to get more than one of these. You have to mix this together at home. It will be a powder and a liquid, and the nurses will explain how to do that. Now, this was the scariest part for me. The needles comes with a cotton swab. The first day, they will most likely do it at the clinic. I had to learn to do this myself, but I'm going to show you that. I'm going to tell you all about it. So this is the syringe, and that's the needle. Do you see that? It's teeny tiny and super thin, super thin. It does not hurt at all when this goes in. It's like a minuscule poke. It's just I have a mild fear of needles, right? So basically the first day the nurse did it for me, I didn't look. And the second day I was like, I gotta be a big girl and I gotta make this happen myself. So I did it. I never thought I would be able to. I did it. I was injecting about this much, 225 milligrams for me, liquid a day. And as soon as you do inject it, it does hurt a little bit locally. It's a very mild pain. I see it as this liquid is just not meant to be there, and now it's like dispersing. So you kind of feel that, and then you do feel your ovaries. And I remember going to the doctor and I was like, it's not really painful. It's nothing. It's way less than period cramps. Some women say they feel ovulation. I'd say it's like that. I started feeling it in my late 20s. It's just like a sensation. And the doctor's like, it feels like something's happening in your body. And I was like, exactly. It's like that's good. Something's supposed to be happening. That's what we want, right? So again, for me, it was not like period cramps. It was a little painful, but very manageable. And so I would do the shot at 5, and then I would sit on my couch for about an hour and chill. I made a whole ritual for myself in order to make this more pleasant. I put on relaxing music. I would eat a whole box of raspberries, which are chock full of antioxidants. I'm going to talk about my diet a little bit too. I would make myself a tea. This is a blend I actually made myself. It is, I'll tell you a little bit about that later, but specifically for bloating and women's issue and calm. And I would get some chocolate and I would just chill out. I'd make sure I have my phone charger, my laptop, some books. So for about an hour and a half, I would relax, talk to friends. Then I'd make myself dinner. I would maybe prep it before, so I just have to put it in the oven or heat up a soup. And then at 8, I would take the pill, and then in 2 hours, you go to bed. The crazy cool thing about it is I would wake up the next morning feeling completely fine. I felt great. I felt high energy. I felt normal. I could go about my day. You're not allowed to work out in this process. I think that's really important. You can go for walks. So the very first day I did it, I walked 12,000 steps, super ambitious. The nurse was like, that's totally fine. The second day, I walked 7,000 and I felt tired. So I was like, okay, Alina, slow down. And what I want to have you think about is that you're spending thousands of dollars to do this. You should listen to your body and give yourself the rest it needs, because it is doing something it's never done before. So it's going to need to direct that energy there, right? So let yourself sleep in. Try to do this in a period where you are not stressed about work. Try to be as chill as possible so your body can do what it's meant to do and you can get as many little eggs as possible, right? So the nurse also mentioned you won't really feel it until the 5th, 6th day. I did feel a little bit. I will say on the 7th, 8th day, it's when my breasts started to feel quite tender and they did hurt. Again, a mild pain, just before your period, but I'd say 20% worse. So again, super manageable. And for me, the hardest day was the 10th day. I did 11 days of the shots. And the 10th day, I was just tired. I fell asleep right after, and I was just quite drowsy. And yeah, for me, it's been quite manageable, this whole process. I'm done the 11 shots. Every woman will maybe have, I've read online, it's 10 to 12 days of the hormones. Every day, again, you take the pill. And then last night, they'll give you a very specific hour. It's very important you take it at that hour you will take your trigger shots, and that triggers ovulation, and then you go in and they collect them. So I'll do a video too after the collection and tell you guys how it goes. You're allowed to take medicine for pain, paracetamol here in Europe, but no ibuprofen. That was very clear. You're not allowed ibuprofen. I would take Midol. If you know Midol, I would take Midol if I was feeling a little discomfort. And I ate incredibly healthy, so I think that helped my journey a lot. And I took like 7 or 8 different vitamins, which I'll share with you. I'm going to put together a booklet. And I started taking the vitamins in December, and I stopped drinking January 1st. So it was the holidays, and some women will, based on your own fertility, will stop drinking much sooner. January 1st I went out, and then I stopped drinking, and I started this around January 12th when I got my periods. Can't remember exactly, but right around there. And yeah, I've made homemade kimchi. Right before I started the process, I made like 6 jars of this. I love to snack, so I wanted to snack on something salty but super healthy. Kimchi is chock full of probiotics. I would eat 2 Brazil nuts a day. They have selenium. Like I mentioned, I made the tea, which I drank. I recommend 2-3 cups a day of tea, half a lemon at least a day in the tea. It gives you natural vitamin C. I brought natural fresh squeezed orange juice. I had protein every single day. I eat animal protein, so I knew that I was wanting to give my body that, but if you are vegetarian, you can eat other forms of protein. So I took my diet very seriously. I made bone broth. I made homemade granola. I really became a grandma. I think if you want to be a mom, let's just skip one phase ahead, nourish your body to the extreme, and get the best quality eggs you can. That was my mindset, and I think it helped my body. I helped it through this process. I'm always a moderation girly, so I did have a cinnamon bun one day. I did have a banana bread slice one day. There's about 3 days where I think it was the period hormones. I craved sweets. I bought myself a mini cheesecake today. I think we're also going through a lot. You gotta go low on sugar. So I do not use sugar. I haven't had sugar in my house ever. I use honey to sweeten my teas. I don't put sugar in my coffee. I use oat milk, which is kind of sweet. So there's a lot of diet tips I can share with you. But yeah, I think that all of this is 2 weeks out of your life, 2.5 weeks. And it gives you, I want to end on this note, it honestly gives you peace of mind. Like, I'm 34, I am single, I recently got out of a relationship. We weren't aligned on the kids question, and yeah, it's not always easy out there, you know? And I always felt, even in my 20s, the playing field for men and women is not the same. It's not fair. And the mindset of men, sometimes I do think, is selfish of, oh, I've got tons of time, you know? They know that in their 40s, they can have kids, you know? And not all men are like this, of course, but we're not on the same level. We have a biological clock ticking. And I've always, as a feminist, kind of hated that. I've always wanted to be on the same level, right? And now I feel like I am. I feel like I've got this insurance policy, right? I know that it's not a guarantee, and every woman, based on their fertility, will be different in this process, but I'm so glad I did it, and I feel the peace of mind, and I know that I have a backup option. So I definitely recommend you do it, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments.